The hall hums like a living heart, bright lights pour over red seats, a thin haze hangs in the heat of the stage. Adrian Vale walks out with a proud smile, the elite violinist who fills halls. He bows low and tastes the quiet like power in his hands. He lifts his bow toward the crowd and asks who will play the hardest piece. The host rubs his hands, the orchestra hushes, the audience turns toward the aisles. Adrian scans faces like searchlights. He wants drama and proof. His gaze finds a woman in a simple dress. She holds a worn case as if it holds a heartbeat. "You there," he calls. Cameras swing, people rise to see. The woman stands. She keeps her chin level and her hands steady. Her name is Mira, a quiet worker from a repair shop. She fixes school instruments and eats soup in the back room. Her father taught her to hear the breath inside wood and string. Mira walks down the aisle as if each plank is a floating stone. She climbs the steps and stops inside the white square of light where music is judged. Adrian meets her with a thin smile. He tells her the rules. Play the opening run of the Devil's Caprice for 1 minute. No warm-up. If you fail, you bow and leave. If you pass, we go faster and higher. The crowd laughs at the word faster. The host says the timer begins when the bow meets the string. Mira sets her case on a black stool. The latches click. The violin inside is old and cared for. The varnish holds tiny scars like stories. She lifts the violin and rests it under her jaw. She tightens the bow. She turns pegs by ear until each note sits true. The orchestra senses her calm and grows silent. A camera shows a line across her wrist, an old work cut that learned to heal. Her hands look soft but strong. Adrian stands a step behind her. He calls a high tempo and a higher key. He says, "Let us see truth." The judges whisper about hands and nerve. Mira closes her eyes for one breath. She thinks of the shop when the street hums like a low cello. She thinks of her father sanding a bridge and saying, "Listen to the quiet between notes." A cable above pings with a tiny metal kiss. A cough tries to start and stops. The hall turns into a held breath. "Play now," Adrian commands. The giant screen wakes and flashes a red minute. The host claps once and then folds his arms. Mira lifts the bow and the bow meets the string. The first note jumps into the air like a bright bird. Someone in the balcony gasps. This is not a lucky guess. The line does not break. The rhythm is clean. Adrian moves to her side and taps a faster beat. "Faster," he says, "faster and higher." Mira does not hide. Her left hand climbs like a steady climber. Her right hand draws a ribbon of sound that does not fray. The camera finds her eyes. They hold no fear. The audience leans forward. A boy lowers his screen. A girl grips a seat arm and whispers, "Oh, my heart." The judges forget to look. The timer slides to 30 seconds. Adrian hums a wrong harmony at her ear. She steps around the trap with a light bend of pitch. The orchestra lets out a small breath. Mira keeps going. The run curls and dives and climbs again like a kite in a new wind. The old violin answers with a young voice. 15 seconds remain. The last rise waits like a cliff with no handholds. Adrian knows that jump and how many fall. Mira hears the cliff and chooses to fly. She leans into the run with a calm body and a fierce mind. The bow flashes, the left hand blurs, the notes line up like bright birds. 5 seconds remain. The crowd rises half out of their seats. The hall becomes a single held breath. The final loop coils like a spring. The music climbs higher. It warms without burning. The red screen shows 3 seconds and then 2. Mira holds the last shape in her mind. Like a star cupped in both hands, she is the quiet street after rain. She is the shop lamp at midnight. 1 second remains. The bow sweeps with bright courage. The sound cuts the dark like a beam of clear day. The hall breaks into a cry and then stops as if afraid to scare the light away, every eye locked on the simple woman who stands like a pillar of music at the center of the world now. Silence wraps the hall like a thick curtain. The timer is gone. Mira stands inside the bright square with her bow still raised. The last note floats like mist. Phones glow like tiny moons. The host opens his mouth and no sound comes. Adrian Vale steps forward with a sweet smile that feels sharp. "Higher key," he says, "and faster count." We keep going until truth shows. The judges lean in, the orchestra tightens like wire. The cameras circle like birds before Rain Mira does not. "Shake." She sets the old violin into her neck with a gentle touch. The wood is full of small marks. She turns a peg, a breath of a turn, and listens. She breathes. Begin, the host calls. The bow meets the string. A bright line leaps out quick and clean. Adrian taps a cruel beat to break her balance. He hums a wrong line at her ear. She bends the pitch and flows around the trap like water. "Where did she learn?" someone whispers. The question rolls through rows like soft thunder. The side screens fill with tags. "Quiet genius." One line says, "Who is?" "Mira." Another asks. She keeps playing and a door opens in her mind. The shop glows under a small lamp. Dust floats like gold. Young Mira sands a bridge with slow strokes. Her father points and says, "Listen to the space between notes. A simple hand can make a rich voice." Then he coughs and smiles. She learns to fix what breaks and to tune by breath. She plays at night while the street sings like a low cello. She keeps the old case like a locked drawer for memory. The city does not know her name. The bench and the lamp know her well. Back on the stage, she climbs a hard run. The bow draws, a ribbon that does not fray. The old violin gives a young song. The judges stop writing. Social feeds pour across the screens like flags in a storm. Repair shop Angel, one tag says. Headline her, another tag says. A clip loops again and again. Mira keeps her eyes steady and warm. Her focus is a quiet flame. Adrian feels a pinch under his ribs. He knows where this piece breaks hands and pride. He sees the worn cloth in her case. He hears dark hour work in every measure. He wonders why. He needs to win instead of learn. The tempo rises like a climbing road. The key grows thin and high. The air between notes shrinks into thread. Sweat shines on Mira's neck. Her left hand blurs. Her right hand stays steady. She looks not proud, and not scared, only present and bright. The shop bell rings again. A mother brings a broken rental and no spare cash. Mira fixes it with what she has. A spare string, a touch of glue. A tune by ear. Adrian calls for a cruel variation known to ruin wrists and names. From the hard part, he says with no warm-up, the pit drum clicks a vicious count. Mira nods once. The first leap lands, the second leap lands, the third leap hangs like a hawk over a cliff and then flies. The crowd surges and drops like surf. The judges stand without knowing. The cameras move so close that the wood grain turns into a river. Map Adrian begins to play beside her with a single sharp laugh. Accents fall like stones into a clear stream. He tries to raise waves and break her road. She threads between the stones and turns ripples into rhythm. The duet crashes and then locks. Two lines twist into a bright braid. The ribbon in the small hand lifts higher. A guard wipes a tear and calls it sweat. An old teacher whispers a prayer. Nobody in the room remembers to sit. Adrian circles behind her and speaks close. Higher key and double time, he says. Can you hold it? Can you hold truth? His voice is steel mixed with fear. The orchestra waits at the tree line. The audience holds the walls with their thoughts. The screens flicker with fire signs and hearts. Mira opens her eyes and climbs. Notes thin like ice over running water, and still they hold. A lamp above flickers and hums with a tired breath. The music runs toward the final ridge. A savage rise that burns the hand. A wall that makes a star or makes a silence. Mira leans forward and flows through the narrow gate. The sky wire of sound grows bright. The high string sings like glass. The line pulls tight as a whisper over a cliff. A sharp ping blooms like a tiny bell. The wire snaps. and the room falls hush in stunned silence. The broken string swings in the light while the hall stays frozen. Mira lowers her bow and breathes like a runner who finds water. Adrian stands close with a smile sharp and soft at once. The host is silent, and the judges hold their pens in the air. A crew hand rushes forward, but stops when Mira lifts a calm palm. "I can fix it," she says with a gentle voice. She opens the old case and finds a spare E wrapped in paper. Her fingers move with neat care, and the crowd leans in to see. She threads the string through the tuner, over the bridge, and around the peg with a clean turn. She tunes by ear, and the pitch settles like a bird on a branch. The host counts down from 5 and his voice shakes. Adrian says from the hard part with no warm-up. Mira nods and the pit drum clicks a cruel count. She lifts the bow and lands in the hard run with a steady heart. Adrian adds sharp accents like stones thrown into a clear stream. She turns each ripple into rhythm and keeps her line brave. 2 lines. Twist and then lock like gears that finally meet. Phones shine and comments pour like warm rain. Quiet genius returns the tags, say, and others write, humble fire. In the front row, a child in a blue hat sits very still with bright eyes. Mira sees the child and warmth rises in her sound. Adrian hears it, and it shakes the place he keeps hidden. He raises the tempo to a place that once hurt him. Notes fall fast like hail on tin roofs, yet Mira does not break. Her left hand climbs with quick steps, and her right hand draws a ribbon that does not fray. Adrian circles behind and hums a wrong tone to bend her balance. She slides around the trap like water, finding a fair path through stone. The judges trade looks that mix fear and joy. The conductor lifts a hand to the pit to hold steady. The piece turns into what players call the burning ladder. Hands fail there, and quiet practice earns its crown there. Mira thinks of her father in the shop with sawdust on his sleeves he told her to play for. One person who needs hope. She looks again at the blue hat, and the lamp inside her grows. A hard figure rises like a hill, and she steps without shake. Adrian feels the room tilt toward the simple woman with the old violin. He calls for a key change. That would make most knees soften, and she answers with a clean turn. Her sound brightens but does not grow thin, and her timing stays sure like a breathing clock. The orchestra joins with soft harmony, like grass under running feet. The duet blossoms, and the stage seems wider. Crowds press forward with bright faces as the cameras swim like fish in light, and the balcony trembles with feet. The host whispers, "Keep going," into his mic, and the comment feed surges like a river after rain, and the night feels electric. Even the ushers stare. A judge lifts a card that says, "Let them play," and the crowd roars. Adrian plays a fierce cadenza full of sparks and dares her to follow. Mira follows, and then she leads, and together they draw a skyway of sound. Across the hall, the child in the blue hat smiles and taps a foot, and forgets the worry bend at the mouth. Adrian hears that small foot, and his bow hand shakes, and then steadies like a bridge in wind that decides not to fall. He looks at Mira and sees not a rival but a mirror of what he once wished to be. The music softens, and a hush walks through the rows like a gentle cat. Mira begins a tiny echo of the theme, and Adrian answers in a lower place. They weave a simple braid and offer it to the room like bread from a shared table. Then the score demands its storm, and the rhythm turns from rain to river to flood. Mira plants her feet like roots in soil and rides the surge with deep calm. Adrian drives harder because fear still hangs on him like a heavy coat. He does not want to be small again, and he does not want to bow to anyone. Mira does not ask him to bow and does not try to shrink him. She plays as if to lift him, and as if to lift the child, and as if to lift the hidden hearts in the rows. The run returns with teeth and fire, and they race side by side. The string that snapped now holds and sings like new glass that will not break. Sweat beads on faces, and the lights burn, and the room forgets to breathe. At the rim of the storm, the music asks for one leap that no one fakes. Adrian throws the signal higher, and the crowd cries out. Mira meets his eyes and nods with quiet courage. They leap together, and the chord blooms huge and bright like a flag in sun. The hall bursts into sound and then falls to a silence that glows. Adrian lowers his violin and takes one step back with wet eyes and a bare soul. He opens his mouth to speak, and the big screen behind them flashes a red word that chills the room. Disqualified. Hangs there like a winter sign, and the host raises a hand with doubt and fear. Red letters burn on the screen, and the hall turns cold. Disqualified hangs like a storm cloud. The host lifts both hands for calm and promises a review. No outside help and no unfair lead. He says, Mira holds her violin with both hands. The bow rests against her wrist. She does not shake. She looks at the child in the blue hat and then at Adrian. Her eyes carry steady courage. Adrian feels heat in his face. He hears the voice of his first master who broke him on a stage. Never. Be small again, the voice says. He looks at Mira and chooses to be better than that voice. The wall of comments floods with hearts and signs. Who is Mira? The lines ask. Quiet genius, say others. A judge with silver hair steps to the edge. He says the rule speaks of outside hands, and he saw none touch the instrument. He says a duet is not a crime. If it serves the test, another judge points to the weight of power. A star can crush a seed without meaning harm. He says, fairness asks. For care. Did the duel stay a bridge, or did it turn into a wall? Mira raises her violin and gives Adrian a small nod. Her lips form the shape of play with me. Adrian lowers his head and breathes. He steps beside her and faces the hall. My first teacher made me small. He says, fear built iron in me. I used it like armor and like claws. I do not want claws now. I want to learn what her quiet line can teach. The third judge asks for the theme as a duet. If the music holds, we will know what is true. Mira lifts the old violin and Adrian lifts his bright one. The pit gives a breath of harmony. They begin with a whisper. The theme walks like dawn. Mira holds the melody with light fingers. Adrian lays a soft echo beneath her tone. The duet grows from dawn to morning sun. The old violin shines. Adrian meets her eyes and lets go of fear. He breathes like a student again. The child in the blue hat smiles. Cameras send that smile to the screen's. Mira guides the line toward the narrow turn that usually hurts. Adrian does not throw stones now. He lays stepping tones beneath her feet. Their sound becomes one body with two voices. At the top of the turn, the house power flickers and then steadies. Nobody moves. The duet holds like a boat that knows the tide. They make the last corner and leave a soft trail of gold. Silence lands. And then breath returns. The screen hesitates between red and white. The judges look at each other. The silver judge raises his slate and speaks. The rule bends when truth stands at the door. He says, I see no outside hands, and I hear a test made honest by two hearts. I vote to clear the warning. The third judge lifts a hand to agree. The floor director jogs in with a new card. He whispers to the host. The host reads, a rival coach claims Mira has secret training and a hidden sponsor. The host asks for quiet and then for proof. The rival coach is on the line, he says. A voice breaks through like a rough wire. The girl is not simple, the voice says. The old case is a costume. I have a video and a letter. Gasps rise, heads turn. A judge raises both palms for calm. Adrian steps to Mira's side. Music does not lie. He says, a costume cannot carry that run. Let the video come. Do not crush a flower before you know its name. The bell for break rings. The screen slides to deep blue. Cameras pull wide. The judges step into a circle. The host promises proof or peace after a pause. Mira stays at center with the old violin in her hands. Adrian rests his bow across his left palm. He whispers alone, "Whatever comes, we stand together and we play." Truth. Mira nods and hears the shop at night, and her father sanding a bridge. Listen to the space between notes, he had said. That is where the heart lives, and that is where you will find your way. The bell for return begins to count down. The crowd settles. The rival coach readies the file. The judges lift their heads like sailors who smell a storm. The blue fades to black for a breath. The music bed swells like a tide. The light leans toward white. The host steps forward with the card in hand. His mouth opens as the first frame of the secret video begins to glow. The first frame glows on the screen and shows a small room with a lamp and a workbench. Not a grand hall. A shaky phone view. Young Mira sands a bridge with careful hands while a tired father smiles in the corner. The rival coach shouts, "Look there. Secret training. A sponsor in the shadows waiting to buy her way onto the stage." The clip keeps going and the truth walks in. The man is not a patron, he is a parent. The wall holds a cheap calendar on a nail. A school violin waits for repair. A jar of screws sits by a paper cup of tea. A folded rent notice hides under a book. The host asks for the letter the coach promised. The silver judge opens the scan. He frowns and then softens as he reads, "It is not a sponsor letter. It is a scholarship. Offer from a city school?" The stamp is brown and the award is small. The footnote asks the student to bring an instrument and pay for travel. At the bottom, a neat hand has written, "Thank you. I cannot come. My father is ill. I will keep practicing." The rival coach goes quiet. The hall rustles like rain, a few boos. Rise and then fade because the room now understands. Adrian turns to Mira with an open face. He says, "I was wrong. I used fear like a blade. I thought being small would kill me. I do not want that life." The judges step together. The red warning melts from the screen. Cleared glows like morning over water, and the crowd lifts with it. The host asks for one last passage before the final decision. The hall shouts, "Yes," like one voice. The pit gives a breath of harmony. Mira sets her old violin. Adrian lifts his bright one. Two bows rise as if they share one heart. They begin in a whisper. The theme walks like dawn and grows like day. The duet does not fight. It guides. It builds a bridge for every ear in the room. The child in the blue hat presses little hands to the seat and smiles so wide that the parent finally breathes in peace. The last rise arrives like a hill in sunlight. They climb and leap together, landing clean on a far bank bright as brass. The hall erupts, then hushes. The final shimmer fades. The judges stand with bright eyes. The silver judge speaks. "We came for skill and found character. We came for speed and found heart. By the voice of this panel, we offer a full ride to the City Conservatory with living support. We also invite Mira to share the stage with the National Orchestra for a winter concert." The room bursts like fireworks. Hands clap and feet drum. The balcony trembles and the floor sings. Mira takes one shaking breath and steadies it. She looks up and down as if speaking to someone in both places. Then she smiles, a small smile meant for home. Adrian lifts his mic with new courage. He asks to stand beside Mira for a charity tour. Every ticket will feed a fund for children who need lessons and strings and small lamps for late practice. He pledges to match every gift. Roars pour over the stage like warm tide. The host laughs through tears and waves the next card. Backstage time arrives like a soft wave, and a quiet corridor folds around Mira. Near the exit, the child in the blue hat waits with the parent. They thank Mira with both hands. The child says, "You sounded like the inside of sunlight." Mira kneels and lets the child touch the smooth rib of the old violin. "When you listen, you make the music too," she says. "So keep listening." Adrian joins with a shy bow. He says the hard piece is only a road. A heart like yours makes the road worth walking. The rival coach stands at a distance with a bent head. Adrian walks over and offers a hand. "I wore armor too," he says. "It rusts and it hurts. Music is kinder without it." The coach nods and faces Mira with simple regret. She bows and says we all learn. Let us do good work now. The conservatory director arrives with papers on a slim board. A pen waits like a small bridge. "Welcome," he says. "Bring your old violin if you love it. We will build a new one with you in the school shop. Your hands know wood." Let us honor that Mira signs with slow letters while the crowd outside begins a chant that sounds like a song. Cameras catch the moment and send it like light. The night breathes and the story lifts.